Guys, this is going to be my February wrap-up and March TBR, where I go through the books that I read in February and tell you really quickly what I thought of them, and then go through the books that I'm planning to read in March. And I actually read 9 books in February. I think I've been reading 5 books on average per month for a really long time now. I think it's been an extremely long time since I've read anywhere near 9 books per month. But a lot of that has to do with most of the books that I read this month, which I'll show you in a minute, and I think you'll understand why I managed to read 9. First 3 books that I read this month were the last 3 Legend of Korra art books, so the Art of the Animated Series books. I had read the Avatar one and the book 1 book for Korra, because for Avatar they did one for the entire series, and for Korra they did one for each season, and there are 4 seasons. So I read the first 2 last month in January, and then I finished out the Art of the Animated Series books this month. I really loved all of them, despite how huge these books are, and they're pretty decently heavy, holding up 3 of them together. They are primarily art books and focus on art, so there's not like a ton of reading. But Korra has some of, if not the prettiest art of anything animated, movie, or TV show that I've ever watched, I think. And I love the art in Korra. I love the art in Avatar too, but Korra, like, I love the art style of the backgrounds in Korra. Like, the backgrounds in Korra are like my favorite thing ever, and they talk about that a lot in every single one of these books, and there are so many pictures of the backgrounds and things, and I really love that. And I really love getting any sort of background information on how the things I love were made. So that was really nice as well. Then after reading those, I stayed on the Avatar theme. I reread The Promise Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Altogether, these aren't that long. It took me, I think, 2 days to read all 3 of these. I had read The Promise back when it first came out, but I had more of the Avatar comics now, and I wanted to reread this one to try and jog my memory. Promise is not my favorite thing ever. Overall, I just kind of feel like it's not on the same level of Avatar by any stretch of the imagination. And this story in particular, like in this series, was not, like, I just didn't find it that interesting, I don't think, which is interesting because it is very like political, and I tend to like that in stories. But for whatever reason, I think it was mostly the dialogue which is all of the writing in a graphic novel, I didn't like that much. I think it was that more than like the plot. I read this again, and then immediately after that I read The Search. So this is Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Again, did not take me that long to read all 3 of them. I hadn't read this one yet, and this story centers around Zuko searching for his mom, Ursa, who disappeared when he was a kid, and that's a like storyline that's kind of introduced in Avatar, and all the fans want to know where Zuko's mom is, and it's never answered in the series. And so this series answers that question, and amazingly I had managed to avoid spoilers about where Ursa was for years, because this came out in 2013, I think, all 3 of these, and so for like 3-4 years I managed to not know what happened in here. I did like this more than The Promise, possibly because it was dealing with a story that had been a question in the fandom for a long time, and something that I wanted answered as well. That being said, I also had some problems with it, but I wrote about those on my blog, so you can find that, where I talk about some aspects of the story that I wasn't happy with. Overall, I think I just really wish the ending of this felt kind of incomplete, and I think it was because it needed to be in 3 volumes. Like, all of the Avatar comics so far have been 3 volumes, like all pretty much the same size, and so maybe that's why the ending felt kind of rushed, because it needed to be in like 3 parts, but it just didn't really feel like a good, like, satisfying ending. It doesn't really feel like there's any sort of resolution. It just kind of stops at a certain point because that's where it had to stop lengthwise, is what it feels like to me. I think that there needed to be more there. But I talk about that more in my review that's on my blog. I just realized that I didn't share my like 5-star ratings on Goodreads for any of those books, but all 3 of the Korra Art books I gave 5 out of 5 stars. All 3 volumes of The Promise I gave 3 out of 5 stars. And all 3 volumes of The Search I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I then read like a real book. It's The Food of a Younger Land by Mark Kurlansky. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It's based on the Work Progress Administration during the Great Depression. Their writers program, I can't remember the proper name for it, was putting together a book on all of the food in each region of America when the writers program kind of like fell apart. Like World War II happened and they didn't have as many writers anymore, and so the book was never published. But this writer found the manuscript of it and then put parts of it together into this book. There are parts of it that he wrote himself as well, which is basically like an explanation of what this book is and some explanations here and there about who the people are who wrote certain pieces. Overall, I found parts of this book interesting and other parts of it much less interesting, which is why I ultimately gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read this month was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, which is the first Infernal Devices book. Read The Mortal Instruments for the first time in late 2013, almost right, just several months before the last one, City of Heavenly Fire, came out. And it has taken me like 3-4 years to read The Infernal Devices. I've wanted to for a really long time. Obviously, I know a lot about what happens in this book, partially because some of the characters appear in the Mortal Instruments, and also because I am involved in the Mortal Instruments fandom, so you hear things over time. I'd also heard a lot of things about this series being better than the Mortal Instruments, like better written than the Mortal Instruments. I don't 100% know if I would agree on that yet. I feel like I'm gonna have to finish this series before I make like any definitive judgments on which one I think is better. But I did like this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I still have to do like a full review of this though, so I'll save my other thoughts until then. Moving on to the books that I plan to read in March. So really quickly, I'm going to mention again, I have the Norton Anthology of Theory and Criticism. I am this far in it, we'll read more of it this month. I'm also currently rereading The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson, which is the 3rd Shades of London book. I did not read the first 2, or reread the first 2, before I reread this one. I kind of debated rereading the second one because that's my favorite of the series. I ended up rereading this one instead. Also currently reading In a Different Key, The Story of Autism by John Donvan and Karen Zucker. I have a lot of thoughts on this book so far. I'm this far into it and I have written down a lot of notes that are going to go into my review of this. But I don't really want to talk about it now because it's a lot of like heavy stuff that requires like a full explanation of what I'm thinking. And some of the stuff, there are a lot of debates when it comes to autism about a lot of different things. And I don't want to say something in this review that's going to make people angry when it's not like a full review where I can like fully explain what I'm saying. So I'm gonna stay quiet about what I'm thinking about this right now, but I do have on my phone, I have a notes page on this book and it has a lot written on it right now. So this will probably be a decently sized review when I get around to it. The only other 2 books I'm going to put on my TBR this month are Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare and Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, which are the 2nd and 3rd Infernal Devices books. Also notice how none of my books in this series match. I'm hoping that I'm going to finish this month, like this series this month, but we'll see. So those are the books I plan to read in March. Maybe I'll be really lucky and be able to finish more than that. I feel like I might, since I am already pretty far in 2 of these books, but we'll see, and I will see you guys later. Bye.